There we go. We are live once again, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My guest today is James Hellier.
Speaking
Welcome,
from
James.
a dark and cold England.
And we're about to be dark and cold here in the States with the storm coming in. All right, so because this movie is almost 2 hours long, we're just going to cut right in. The sync point's about 25 seconds in. I have the Alcon Entertainment logo. It's right before the beginning of the movie. So without
Like
further ado,
this logo.
that's it. That's it. And yep, so let's do this, James. You want to count us down?
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do a shout out to everybody here while we have some credits rolling. I hope you all got a good night's sleep and we're not all suffering from insomnia. All right, we have Miss Swift with us, Mad Matt, Edward the Black Prince, Calbot, Alex Peacock, Eric. Uh, let's see. Oh, Johnny Devick is joining us in YouTube. Brainwire. Hello, hello, all. Nice crowd in YouTube and over on Discord. All right, we have doing double duty. Let's see, Alex Peacock, Miss Swift, Edward the Black Prince, Eric's out there, and James Hellier looks like he's typing something in Discord. So
Yeah.
we are. So this is a very interesting movie, and one of my first introductions to Robin Williams as a bad guy, kind of a wicked bad guy. So, without giving any spoilers, for anyone that hasn't seen the movie yet, this is a real treat. So, let's. Executive producer George Clooney and Steven Soderbergh. There you go,
And
class.
it was Steven Soderbergh is the one who hired Christopher Nolan for this because he'd seen Memento. He'd bought the rights to the Scandi flick this is based on, and just kind of saw Memento and thought, that's the guy I want to make this.
Um, he did not write this. He just directed it.
He wrote the final draft of the shooting script, but didn't do enough to get a WGA
Credit.
adjudication credit. It's probably the least Christopher Nolan of Christopher Nolan's films because rather than being a project he initiated and wanted to make, it's something where literally he's been brought in as a gun for hire.
And the name of the movie alone will give away a big part of the plot point where it does take place in Alaska, where the sun does not set for what, 6 months.
But
That
he's basically travelling to 30 Days of Nightland.
and yeah, he already looks tired. So has anybody not seen this movie before? It came out in 2002. So it is what, 20, let's do math real quick, 23 years old. But I remember it in the theaters. I remember seeing it. I believe it was a rental. I don't remember seeing it in the theater.
I think I would have seen it on UK sell through DVD, so probably about 2003.
That's about the lag time between it hitting the theaters and hitting rental was about a year.
As opposed to it hitting streaming within about 2 months and sell through Blu-ray within about 3 months.
And these days, it hits the streaming services while it's still in the theater.
Mm.
Um, it's an interesting dynamic how the studios get their recoup their money and recoup their investment. They can do it
I,
all
I
at the
think
same time.
I think part of it is since the pandemic, people still aren't going back to the cinema in the numbers they were before. So leaving things in the cinema for ages is earning them a
Yeah.
whole lot of nothing.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Alex Peacock says the home release model now is wild. It's so much different than when Blockbuster and all those mom and pop rental stores showed up. It is, I mean, for the most part, they just release a movie in the theater. 2 weeks later, it's streaming.
Mm.
Um,
And it get and they lose confidence in things, sort of their cinema life very quickly. So it's like last year, The Fall Guy looked like that should have been a big hit, but it didn't do huge box office in its first week. So effectively, they were pulling it from cinemas around the world in its second week and releasing it on streaming while it was still in the cinema, which would have killed off any custom it had.
well, the COVID was a wild time. It seems like it was so long ago, but it was just a couple years ago.
Yeah,
It just flipped everything on its head.
I'm agreeing with Alex Peacock here that The Fall Guy was a solid movie.
Yeah, it was, and I don't. Did it even hit the theaters?
It was basically
Maybe.
pulled after its first week when it didn't blow up the box office.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is that if you're looking at these movies that are made from TV series, that's probably one like The Equalizer, where they're good movies, but the TV series hasn't been in reruns as much as stuff like, say, The A-Team. So
Right.
it's not although some people might recognise the name, no one under about the age of 40 will have heard of the flipping thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Edward the Black Prince has a good point. When the movie's actually good and people want to really see it, then they leave it in the theaters. That's how they used to make the money. And it was like a side note when they would release it on video. Um, and that's the evolution of the movie industry. But back in the day, things were in the theater for months at a time, especially in the summertime.
Oh yeah, I mean, before the days of multiplexes. I remember with our local cinema seemed to have, with its two screens, you'd have no choice about what to see
Yeah.
because literally you would like the James Bond film was there for months.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, so we're kind of introduced to the plot point here. These detectives from LA come up to Alaska to help solve the murder of a young girl.
Mm.
And this is an all-star cast so far. Al Pacino, Hilary Swank, um, and
And,
his partner. I'm forgetting his partner's name. He's a that guy kind of actor.
and in about 47 minutes' time, Robin Williams.
Yep, exactly. Robin Williams is kind of low key at this point. We haven't seen him yet.
I mean, and it is Robin Williams' second creepy serial killer performance of 2002. Because he
Uh,
also did 1 Hour Photo the same year.
um, uh, with so I don't want to give any spoilers away on that movie. He was a serial killer in that movie. I don't remember that part.
Well, he wasn't a
Serial
serial
creep.
killer. He was a stalker and
Yeah.
very very creepy. But
Hmm.
it's basically the same sort of same sort of performance in the same headspace in a year.
That's true.
And
And
it's interesting because normally I don't like Robin Williams in stuff because he's kind of, I find, you know, Mork from Ork and sort of all that stuff, too sort of screamy and loud and annoying. And I kind of think a typical performance from him in the cinema would be something like Good Morning Vietnam, which I don't mind because that's actually written.
mhm.
The role is like written to that sort of strength. But I've realised that all the films that I do really like him in are things like this, 1 Hour Photo, or The Birdcage, where he's very much playing against type and he's very restrained and buttoned down.
That's interesting. You mentioned against type. For those of us who grew up on Robin Williams, he was always known as a stand-up comedian, Mort for Mort. That's where we know him from. That's what he was so good at. And when he branched out into movies, you would have one of his first performances, Moscow on the Hudson, which was it was a drama comedy where he did break out of that role we used to see him in. Um, yeah, Mad Matt Nanu Nanu. I grew up on that show. Yeah, Miss Swift mentioned in Goodwill Hunting, and so
But
he
you, but,
started
but you
out.
also get all these things like Death to Smoochie and
Oh,
Flubber,
of
and,
course.
and that absolutely appalling Coppola film Jack, which has to be one of the worst films ever made.
Yeah, and I saw Jack in the theater because of my love for him as an actor, and I've seen it once, and yeah, never again. It was just not a good movie overall.
Mm.
And there was nothing he could have done as an actor to make it better. Um, old Johnny Devick mentions two things we lost: series that could adapt to episodes being sent on TV to adapt to the audience before streaming releasing entire seasons at once, and being able to discover sleeping hits on DVD. That is right on the money. This is the problem with binge watching shows. You are just exposed to it all at once rather than the episodic once a week where you get a taste of it and you stew on it a little bit. Then you see the next episode next week.
But some of the
Um,
streaming services are sort of going back
hmm,
to doing that. It's only really like Netflix that keeps releasing things all in
mhm,
one go. A lot of the, and even Netflix
mhm.
themselves, for something like release some series 1 episode a week.
Yeah, and I remember, I think Netflix with binge watching, I think House of Cards was the first really bingey show they released and introduced us to that term of binge watching. But yeah, take me back to a good old fashioned movie in the theater. Those were just the good old days where you had to search out your entertainment and the whole experience in a theater. Where I feel like we're experiencing it now with all of us watching this movie together. We still kind of get that feeling. So, okay, so this scene, oh, I don't even have my subtitles on. Um, this pivotal scene is an interesting dynamic between these guys.
But
And
it's also one of the key changes from the Scandi film that they're remaking. That this idea that Dormer has got something wrong in his past. You know, might have framed someone, might have planted
mhm,
evidence.
mhm.
That's kind
There's
of not at all in in the Scandi film. What happens later on is a pure and simple accident in the Scandi film, as opposed to something where you'd automatically think maybe he did it on purpose.
Yep, this scene kind of sets that up. Um, all right, let's see.
And that
There we
actor
go. There we go.
is Martin Donovan.
Is that the name of the actor? I was
That is
drawing
the name of the that guy you were only able to name as that guy.
that guy. He's the partner, and it's being revealed that he is set to testify against him, and there's some kind of investigation going on. Yes, Miss Swift, week to week watching allows for building momentum, word of mouth, and water cooler chat. We used to have that all the time growing up with what X Files. Um, yeah, that's in the 80s. In the 90s, we had the X Files. In the 80s, everything. There was no streaming. You couldn't really see TVs on video anyway. You had to watch them on TV. Oh, Calbot looked up night mute on the map. It's not actually far enough north to be that light, even at the summer solstice.
So basically, they should have set it in the town from 30 Days of Night for it to be credible.
They could have,
Which would
yes.
then have been the most unlucky town in Alaska. Get past its friendly local serial killer only to have vampires turn up.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. Old Johnny Devick says, "Got one here." You got a town that doesn't have any dark. Oh, X Files. 2 in the files times. Okay. Yeah. So this this movie was a blockbuster hit at the time, and very much critically acclaimed. Um, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think it was even nominated for an Oscar. Did one of them get it nominated for their performances? Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mention it on my
I
blue
don't.
packaging,
Okay.
which would seem to suggest not.
Okay.
Because normally, if someone is, they love sticking that on that.
So we have a bunch of Academy Award winning actors in this movie, just not for this performance. Hilary Swank won for Million Dollar Baby. Al Pacino won for, anybody know? I know, I won't give it away. Robin Williams won for Good Will Hunting. The investigation deepens. Yep, Scent of a Woman, Alex Peacock got it. Oh, Miss Swift, that picture, I think that was the picture of Al Pacino from Scent of a Woman. You're on it. All good movies.
Which is something quite rare for Oscar winners.
Alex Peacock and Hilary Swank won for Boys Don't Cry. That is right. She did win that. Oh, and speaking of which, the Academy Awards are on tonight. Anybody going to watch them?
Nope.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen any of the movies up for any of these awards. And they're probably really good. I mean, there's got to be some good movies out there.
I think you always get a load of films nominated that have basically clearly only been made and released to try and get an Oscar nomination.
Yeah. And it just seems like it's part of the old Everybody's in the club, everybody just get nominated. Yes, that guy was from General Hospital, now that I get a look at it.
That's Jonathan Jackson, who I think
Yes.
Nick Garris used in his Stephen King film, uh, Riding the Bullet.
Haven't seen that one yet. Miss Swift made the comment about Jonathan Jackson from General Hospital in the hoodie. Didn't notice it until you get a good look at him. Way back in the day, I think when no, he was already on General Hospital at that time, right? Anybody watch it back then when he was young? I know I did.
We don't have General Hospital in the UK, so no.
And it's one of the two soap operas still on. Yep, Lucky Spencer, Miss Swift.
I
Um,
only know about these American soap operas from the meta episodes of Supernatural.
yeah, only two of them are on still. General Hospital, Young and the Restless, I want to say. But yeah, he's playing the boyfriend. I think he's the boyfriend of the girl that they're investigating her death. And what I notice about Al Pacino's performance, I'm feeling tired just watching him get tired. His eyes tell everything. He went to this place in Alaska already tired. Um, and you can just see he's in a place that the sun will not go down and he's just tired, which plays into this theme in the movie without giving anything away.
Yeah, well, Pacino is, of course, a method actor, so he probably made himself look tired by not sleeping.
Yeah, rumor has it he is about as method as you get. I would
I know,
not be at all surprised.
I know Nolan said about making this film how he had issues with the different approaches of his lead actors, that Pacino likes lots of in depth conversations with the director about the character's background and motivation. He likes lots and lots and lots of rehearsals and lots and lots and lots of takes. Whereas Robin Williams, he didn't do rehearsals, he just wanted lots of takes and improvisation. Whereas Hilary Swank was very much, I've done my rehearsals, I'm two takes and I'm done.
And they all came together with their performances, and they really are great together. Um, Al Pacino, of course, just is so confident on the screen with his character, and his method works. Um, I believe it. I believe the character that he's playing. Um, Robin Williams has his own method, which I think he has honed over the years. I don't know if Christopher Nolan. I mean, I think he did get Robin Williams when he was directing this movie, and this was, I think, his first and only time working with Robin Williams, I believe.
Yeah,
Um, so he was able to work with Robin Williams's process of doing some takes and then letting him go for other takes, which is really the only way you can work with Robin Williams, I guess.
but
It seems to
he's
be the
also,
way.
I think, when they sort of they translated this from the Scandi flick to sort of justify getting someone like Robin Williams in the part, they really beef up the importance of his character's role in the narrative. His character who we haven't met yet.
Right. And there's no even hint of his character yet. They're still investigating this girl's murder. They're going down the lead that this is where the evidence will lead them. Um, Yeah, Mad Matt says so. Do the rehearsal with the camera rolling. I think when you've got Robin Williams on set, that's how they do that, and they get the take that they need and let him just go wild. And one of those takes is what actually sticks.
You see, yeah, Miss Swift says they're trying to figure out who killed Laura Palmer. Well, see, obviously, those of us who saw the international version of the pilot knew early on.
Oh, was it different than what the US got?
Uh, Basically, they put on an ending that showed that Ray Wise was the killer.
Very
Because
interesting.
it was kind of one of those things where it might have just been a standalone movie at one point, a bit like one of his one of Cronenberg's later things that was shot as a TV pilot, wasn't picked up, so he tacked an ending on it.
Very interesting.
It's just obviously if you see the international pilots first, it kind of makes the rest of the series a bit pointless.
Well, here in the States, I don't know anybody, because Twin Peaks was like our water cooler chat. We were all watching it. Um, and that was back before we had, I don't even think we had access to the international pilots.
It's quite a thing when you get different international versions of
Hmm.
pilots and cuts of movies, because I know there was that quite fun X Files rip-off, Dark Skies, set in the 60s that Toby Hooper did the pilot for, and we got a dramatically different version of his pilot to the one that then turned up on US TV. Ooh,
Okay, so yeah, this is a very interesting scene. They're in the fog. Um, and I guess places like this this is heavy fog. Cops running around with their guns out in heavy fog is never a good idea. But someone just got shot. Um, and he's already tired. And yeah,
you see, I
this
wouldn't
is
be
intense.
I wouldn't be going into that fog. That looks like the sort of
Mm-mm.
fog that has pirate ghosts in it out for revenge. That is like proper John Carpenter fog.
That is. But you can't even see. He's squinting to see in the fog. You can't see anything. So unless you know what you're shooting at, it's best to put your gun away. But yeah, this is an intense scene. Uh, and now we got the movie rolling.
Now in the Scandi film, it does kind of play out like this, except he's not got the backstory that that Dorman might be under investigation, so he's not got a motive for shooting him. The reason that he's in trouble, it would be in trouble in the Scandi one, is his police aren't meant to carry guns, but he's got a gun from a job he had when he was on on the Swedish police, I think.
Hmm.
So he's got a different reason to not fess up.
And here we see this. Was it an accident? Was it not an accident? By all accounts, what we're seeing so far is this was a complete accident. Um,
Except as the guy was promising to rat him out to internal affairs, Who would believe it's an accident?
Exactly. So you have that element that he knew his partner was set to talk. Who's gonna
Steal.
who's gonna believe that it was an accident if it truly was? And this is a slippery slope. Oh, Mad Matt posted the picture of Paul Dooley was wimpy in Popeye with Robin Williams. No kidding.
That is, however, a very bad movie.
That was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, um, Robin Williams' very first movie, Popeye, 1980, I believe. And I would not have placed him as wimpy. So, oh boy, now we have the fallout from an officer that's still considered an officer involved shooting, officer down. Man Met, okay, Special Unit 2, X Files adjacent TV show. Special Unit 2, that really was a show. I don't recall ever hearing about that. Miss,
2001 ran for 2 seasons.
ah,
American sci-fi comedy that I've never heard of.
I've never heard of it either. But Miss Swift has. She says, yep, never caught on like Warehouse 13. Huh. Oh, it was on the CW/UPN. Very interesting. Learn something new every day.
Starring Michael Landis, aka the original Jimmy Olsen from Lois and Clark.
Aha. All right. I must have just not had my TV on at that time. I remember Warehouse 13. Yeah. Alex Peacock posted a little bit ago. Haven't seen this in years. Saw it in summer of 2002. Wanted to see this more than Attack of the Clones that summer. That was a really, really long time ago. Attack of the Clones. I think it was Attack of the Clones is one of the better ones of that trilogy.
I think it's the one that shows that George Lucas has watched The Fifth Element.
Yes. Much better than Phantom Menace.
That isn't
It's not hard to do.
really the height of praise, is it?
Well, it's not saying much when you say a movie's better than Phantom Menace, because it's really not that hard to do. But, oh, yes, Edward the Black Prince, I think Revenge of the Sith was the best.
No, Revenge of the Sith is like watching a video game.
But Revenge of the Sith really has a great ending, except for the big reveal of Darth Vader. I love the final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I love that.
It's all just completely unnecessary because
Yeah.
it's all sketched in with a few lines quite elegantly in Star Wars, not A New Hope, Star Wars, and you don't need this thing to fill in a lot of detail about things you know anyway.
Yeah, well, I know Lucas felt the need to do it. He felt the need to do a lot of things I probably don't agree with, but well, I mean, he's the man with the money and he owned it, so I give him that. So this is where he is trying. Okay, so he's trying to cover his tracks.
Now this is
Um,
dramatically different in the Scandi film. He
but
doesn't he doesn't put a bullet in a dead dog to get his piece of false evidence. He kills a dog, guns
oh,
it down. But obviously, this is being remade in America, and in America, you can't have
I
animals hurt in a movie. So, as we all remember, Independence Day, where millions of people are being killed and burnt alive, but they make sure we have a shot of the dog leaping to safety in the tunnel.
yeah. Well, I think we've become so desensitized to things on the screen, but animals, anything happening to animals, still really just affects us.
But
Even
I,
though we know it's not real, they're not really shooting animals, right? It's all fake.
but I think the thing is, in the Scandi film, it's also part of the police character is far more amoral or immoral than Pacino's character is. He perhaps, I mean, I have seen some people say that Pacino was probably the wrong casting because you have
Mm.
people feel an instinctive warmness towards it, the character, because it's played by Al Pacino.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments really for anything if you feel that it's been miscast. Had they gone another way with a different actor, how would this movie
Well,
have turned
they
out?
they
It's
originally wanted Harrison Ford for
right.
the Dormer role, which you can see some people would initially say that wouldn't work because he's far too nice. He's Harrison Ford, and I kind of go, well, he wasn't very nice in what lies beneath. He may not have had many opportunities to play someone horrible and compromised, but the few opportunities he had shows he can do it.
Yes. And I think that was why he almost left after Empire Strikes Back of being typecast and stuck in those kind of roles. If he was never offered roles to play the bad guy, to play the morally ambiguous characters, then that's different than had he been given this role and just said, "Nah, I'm going to stay clear of this." How would it have been different with Harrison Ford? Um, who knows? Yeah, Edward the Black Prince. I agree. Ford is one of the most grumpy men ever, yet we still love him. He just seems like almost like a grumpy guy every time he's in an interview. Or is it he's so reserved that he's so monotone that we don't see him as a lively character? We just see him as like a more introverted, deep and dark kind of character guy. That's interesting. But yeah, Al Pacino, I think, does a very solid job of playing this multi-leveled, um, morally ambiguous detective.
See, there's me liking Al Pacino when he's soaring wildly over the top in things, rather than offering a restrained or convincing performance. You know,
um, yeah,
give me the devil's advocate any day.
yeah, he was great in Scarface, which is it's almost like he's playing to his type. That's the kind of character that he just envelops and becomes a part of. Um, Scent of a Woman was great. He was not the kind of character I would expect that he would have played, but
I,
he did. He did a
I,
solid
I
performance.
mean, I'd probably say his best performance for me would be Carlito's Way,
Mm.
which, going against my love of all things over the top, is actually a very restrained and buttoned down performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's got he's got quite the resume. Um, some of his earlier work, of course, The Godfather, Serpico, Godfather Part Two, and Dog Day Afternoon. Um, yeah, yeah, good. I mean, great performances, longevity, and yeah. Speaking of which, um, we've all heard about Gene Hackman and his wife this week, and talk about a guy who was prolific actor. I think 40, 45 years in the business, solid actor. Um, it is a shame. Um, and we just hope and pray that the investigators can do their job and find out what happened to him.
Well, it has to be said the police appear to have been particularly sort of ham-fisted in the way they've gone about it. When they initially said there was no sign of anything suspicious, but it could have been a double murder, a double suicide, or something else. And you kind of go, well, a double murder sounds pretty effing suspicious to me.
I think there is something to be said for just staying quiet. They didn't have to say what they said, but when you have the world watching, the world wants to know, and we want to know now, even though there's no way they're going to know. There's no way. They can speculate all they want. Everybody is going to speculate all they want as to what happened, but you have to let the investigation take its course. There's a lot of evidence there that will point them in the direction that they need to go. So yeah, it's sad.
Mm.
And yeah, we were talking before this watch party, James, about the Gene Hackman roles
Yeah.
that we've already done watch parties for. We've done most of the Superman movies.
Don't worry,
Um,
everyone. We're not doing Superman 4: The Quest for Peace next week.
I draw the line. Um,
Lenny Luthor will wait for another day. You can all
yeah.
look forward to the watch party where we'll watch Milton Keynes double for Metropolis.
We'll have that in the future. Yes. So yeah, yeah. So back to the movie. So here's an interesting scene. The whole town is sleeping. And by the way, there were blackout curtains. I think, did Miss Swift make that comment earlier about blackout curtains in the hotel? They do. They have the curtains available. It just wasn't working for him. Um, he still can't sleep. Everyone else is sleeping, and he's out walking the streets. Edward the Black Prince mentioned, I got the 4K box set of the Reeves movies, Supermans. I'm never putting four on. I'm with you.
Actually, the disc
I'm yeah.
4 has some very interesting extra material. They've sort of got all the material with Clive Mantle as the first nuclear man in the deleted scenes packages. And while it's still not good, a lot of the stuff they took out contextualizes and explains the problems with the movie as it ended up. And of course, poor old Clive Mantle didn't find out he'd been edited out of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, until he took his family to see it at the cinema.
Oh, oh, oh. That's worse than being told, hey, your part's on the cutting room floor. Um, yeah, we've done, well, Creator VC, right, before we took over here. We've done Superman, Superman 2, and Superman 3, and I believe we even did Superman 3 twice.
See, you
And
could do Superman 2 twice because there are two distinctly different cuts of it.
well,
But I think the only one that's streaming is probably the
it's
theatrical one.
theatrical, right? The Richard Donner cut. Um, we could, if we choose to do that, we could do the Richard Donner cut because that's readily available now. But I cannot do Superman 4.
Or
No.
there is the 4-hour TV cut of Superman the movie that has
4 hours.
it has more of everything. You think it just has there's more scenes of Superman flying, more scenes of him fighting crime, more comedy with Lex and Otis.
Well, that's great and all. That's great. We can watch it on our own time. If you guys want to watch Quest for Peace, we can make that like a homework assignment and
But
then we'll discuss it next week.
but basically the extended TV cut of Superman the movie is back in the day where they'd have a load of extra footage so that when they sold it to a US TV network, the network could show it over 2 consecutive nights. So you'd have a 2-hour Superman movie one night that basically 2 hours taking you up to him arriving in Metropolis, and then 2 hours of hijinks with him and Lex Luthor.
Well, I think that's what they used to do back in the day. They would edit out all the content not suitable for TV, and then they would have to put more content in to make it fill up their time, I guess.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Alex Peacock said ad revenue for the networks. Yeah.
it's and now some of these extended versions turn up on the Blu-ray releases as special features that might not even be in HD.
Right.
So it's one of the things where if you really liked the David Lynch Dune or the Battle of Midway, somewhere out there, there's a 4-hour version that's been disavowed by the director.
Mm. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Sometimes any of David Lynch's Dune is not a good thing.
Sometimes, yes. Yes, Calbot. Fans would say Superman 3 was the worst Superman movie ever. Superman 4 came along and they said, hold my beer. That's exactly right. And I think it was just.
I think Superman 4 was coming from a good place in Christopher Reeve's heart with the story they were trying to tell. It just got all caught up in Canon Films running out of money quite dramatically. Was it even the film that actually killed Canon?
Hey, chat. Do you guys know, was Superman 4 what finally put the nail in the coffin? I hope not. So if you'll notice, they do have, in the movie, they do have some blackout curtains. Obviously, he needs to put it all the way. He's trying to sleep, but he's not going to go to sleep. He's not sleeping. He's probably on his 3rd or 4th day now. So here we go. This is his phone call. His phone call. We're all being introduced to A new character.
A friendly local serial killer.
Well, those blackout curtains are not pulled all the way. They would make the room all black. So maybe a part of him is saying,
Or maybe the director thinks that the audience actually would like to see Al Pacino rather than a black room.
that's exactly right. And Calbot mentions those aren't blackout curtains because blackout curtains wouldn't let nearly that much light into the room. Yes, and they would block all of the light and make it completely black.
Yeah, so basically, having the movie end at this point because Dormer trips over in the dark and breaks his neck would probably have been anticlimactic.
That's it. Movie's over, halfway in. And yet we still have not seen Robin Williams yet. And you were right. You called it about 45 minutes in. Yep,
Yeah,
we're about what, 50 minutes in now?
let's have a look. Yeah, 50 minutes.
Yep, a little over 50 minutes. Yeah, and one of these watch parties, I am going to have a count up timer this way. We're going to have it in the corner to keep track. I'm working on it. So just so I mention this, I am still figuring out this whole co-host situation. And if there's anybody that would like to take on like a permanent role, just so we have some continuity. I mean, I don't mind doing it this way, and we just shift everybody around and everybody kind of takes turns. But maybe if we work towards getting someone that wants to do it on a more regular basis, would just kind of make it easier for us to do this. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't mind doing it this way, but we could do it the other way too. Kind of like Andrew and Dom, everybody knew their places and the times to do it. Um, so yeah, let me know what you think. And if anybody does want to do this on a more semi-permanent. And I will mention, especially since in just about 3 or 4 weeks, I am moving cross country. It will be on a Monday, so the watch party will go on as usual. So we shouldn't have a break in the parties.
Mm.
So that's my plan. So this is the best friend of the girl that died.
This is very sanitized compared to what the same character does in the Scandi flick.
Well, isn't he's kind of rough with this girl, I think, kind of interrogation.
He doesn't put his hand up her skirt, which is what Stellan Skarsgård does in the Scandi
Oh,
flick.
that's that's kind of
As I said, I think the Scandi detective is a far darker character.
definitely. But we're going to get more pieces of the puzzle. And eventually we will see Robin Williams in the flesh. We will see. Oh, and to also mention, so next week we have daylight savings. So we're going to be setting our clocks ahead in the States.
Hmm.
Nowhere else, though. You're not doing it in the UK, right?
Our clocks change later in the month.
Okay. So I
So
won't change the time of the watch parties. It'll still be 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. So for everyone, it might shift an hour.
yeah, our clocks go forward 1 hour on the 30th of March.
Okay. So yeah, everybody just be aware. But I'll still keep the watch parties at 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. I think that won't screw anybody up, I don't think.
I don't even know what Mountain Standard Time is.
It's kind of like right in the center of the country. It's like kind of like in the Denver time zone. And then the we have the West Coast, Mountain, Central, and then East Coast. I think that's how it goes.
Usually, if I'm having online meetings with people in America, they either seem to be on EST or PST.
Yeah, Eastern or Pacific. Pacific is California. Eastern is like the other coast. So yeah, Alex, it's 1 hour off Pacific time. So right now I'm like 1 hour ahead. I don't know. I used to live in an area we didn't do daylight savings at all, and now all of a sudden I've been doing it. I don't know. Yes, Miss Swift, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific.
You should just have one time zone for the whole country, like a proper country.
I know, wouldn't that be nice? And the time zone, it cuts right through my state. So if I go on the other side of the state, I have to change my clock.
That's just daft.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, Dormer is going to get some answers from her, no matter what. Aha, we're going to have a clue. Oh, Mad Matt posted the picture. Catherine Isabella. Is that who this, does she play the friend? She was in Ginger Snaps. Yeah, she looks familiar. So I'm thinking if he hasn't slept in, we're probably looking at 2 or 3 days, at least 3 days,
Mm.
his eyes should be a lot redder, a lot more bloodshot.
Well, it's Al Pacino letting the side down by looking too sensual and Italian.
Ah, we have a clue.
Mr. Finch now calls Alaska home.
Mr. Finch.
Although, am I right in saying that despite the fact this is set in Alaska, none of it is filmed in Alaska?
I think it was filmed actually in Canada. I think there's a lot of provinces in Canada, but I don't think it was filmed in.
Because we all know that all of America actually looks like Toronto.
Yes.
Because I've seen enough American series to know that downtown Toronto looks like anywhere in America.
Yeah, and they have. I think Canada became a place to shoot movies and TV shows back in the 80s because they were just really friendly for the production, for taxes. Easy to get up there.
I think it was primarily a taxes thing.
Yeah.
A bit like when everyone used to come over here and shoot things. It was because of
Yeah.
taxes.
Oh, so the opening aerial scene where it was over the glacier was filmed near Valdez, Alaska. Yeah, so it looks like the beginning shots were
So the beginning
in
shots
Alaska.
that didn't have any of the cast in.
Right. And then the rest was a lot of it was shot in Vancouver. Um, and the scene where Dormer has shot his partner, that was in Vancouver. And then Finch's apartment. I think, yep, aren't we at Finch's apartment now? Yep. Filmed on Vancouver Island in Port Alberni.
Oh,
Yep.
nice. You
Alex
tucked in the
Peacock,
door.
tax breaks and solid crew. Yep. And I think even today, Toronto and provinces up in Canada are still readily used. Aha. So he just broke into a suspect's apartment.
A little bit of B&E goes a long way.
Nothing sus here.
I mean, barely an episode of the Rockford Files could go past without Jim engaging in some B&E.
Oh, the Rockford Files. That's classic show.
$200 a day plus expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, Johnny Devitt depends what tax Canada will have towards us going forward. Yeah, I mean the world is in flux now, isn't it? How can he even I just can't imagine. Anybody been awake for 3 days and still fully functional? That's beyond me.
I'm not sure I'd say he's fully functional. He's functional.
He's still trying to make it work, I guess.
Well, he's becoming more erratic. His
Mhm.
judgment's going.
Yep, and we'll see that as the movie goes on and he doesn't sleep.
I'm kind of thinking that
Like
some of these bits, like this chase sequence we've got now, must have been put in the film because some studio suit thought, people won't sit with a load of psychological stuff. We need an action sequence to spice things up.
that very well could have been it. There's a lot of the psychological intrigue and drama going on.
As well, I can
Something
imagine
like
like
a
a thriller writer sidelining in Murder, him also being a champion log runner. Yep, that's more like I see how the log running going when Dormer falls through them.
Yep, if you have no experience. Yes, old Johnny Devick says, didn't the machinist show how bad insomnia is? Yeah, the machinist, he was awake for, I think, what was the final tally, like 10 days? Or at least a week in that. And that was horrendous what it did to him. But yeah, I do think in those contests you see on TV, people log rolling, one guy on each side, and they're on the log. That's impressive, and it's very hard to do.
Clearly, a skill you need to develop if you're going to be an Alaskan serial killer.
Well, obviously, our anti-hero slash bad guy, a far cry from Orc, had done it before. He was pretty good on that.
But
Yeah,
he's
stuntman.
spent years practicing it just in case he had to use it as an escape route. I'm also thinking that water must have been very cold.
Um, could be. This is was it mentioned this was the beginning of their winter? Because it's all it is. It's wet. I don't see a lot of snowfall. If there was a lot of snowfall, it would be freezing and you wouldn't last long.
You'd be doing a lot of shivering as opposed to going back to the
Yeah.
apartment to do a bit more B&E.
I'm just feeling tired just watching him and being in an environment where the sun doesn't go down for weeks and weeks and months. Um, I even when my kids were young and I would go without sleep for maybe 2 days, that was too much. So let me throw it out there to the chat. What's the longest amount of time that anyone has gone without sleep? Whether, good, bad, bad results. If anybody, I can't imagine going more than 2 or 3 days without some really bad consequences.
I think probably only 36 hours or so.
Yeah. And I think they said if you go 11 days, then that's fatal. I cannot even imagine. And I bet if Al Pacino is as method with this role, I bet during the shooting of it, he probably gave himself a little bit of insomnia too to be in the role. Old Johnny Devick was up 1.5 days when I arranged a demo party back in 93. Yeah, Miss Swift, not more than a day. And even then, I think I nodded off. Alex Peacock did, never went 2 full days and nights. Yeah, even in college, maybe a day, maybe stay up a night.
I'm not sure owning a book by someone would be evidence that you were brutally murdered by them.
No, but it's a clue.
I've got autographed
He's
books. That doesn't mean when I die, people are going to assume I was killed by one of the authors.
well, Dormer knows something she doesn't. I mean, it's a solid clue, but he's starting to unravel. It does look cold, but I'm not seeing much of any snow there.
Now, I think this scene is one that they didn't actually do any rehearsals with the two lead actors for, because it was the first time that they'd met in character and they wanted it to be a real surprise.
And they're both in character. Um, this is a very interesting scene because of what they kind of come up with. And it's interesting, a meeting of the minds. They're both not the most morally honest people and very devious. It is nice to see Robin Williams in more of the dramatic roles. Mark from Orc, I think Mark and Mindy went on for 4 seasons. which is one season, I think, too long. And it almost made him feel like a joke.
But
Um,
I mean,
but
to us,
he did,
US seasons just seem ridiculously long anyway, because
yeah,
most stuff over here only ever used to get 6 to 10 episodes in a season. So I've got all these false memories of US series that I'm convinced are long running, but in fact they were like a mid-season replacement or something. But they seemed like they were long running compared to what we had here.
yeah.
Because ITV could put 3 months of Street Hawk out before it ran out of episodes.
Yeah, and US TV is they've been on that trend for quite a while, limited episodes per season, which you pack enough into the episodes, and that's enough. And it's the storytelling. Rather than going to 25 to 30 episodes per season, you can do it all in 10.
Well, it's the old model was you have 25 or 26 episodes, and your target was to do at least 4 seasons. Because once you'd hit 100 episodes, the production company could make its money back by selling it into syndication.
Yeah, and you have to hit that 100 episode mark.
Yeah.
Edward the Black Prince mentioned Robin has one of the most memorable episodes from Law and Order. I remember that episode, and I watched it when it first aired. And he was a tourist with his wife, and his wife was shot dead on the street. And he was a grieving husband, and they were trying to solve this crime. And yeah, that was some 20 odd years ago, I believe it aired. So another interesting thing about Robin Williams is, remember back in the day where TV actors were considered TV actors, not movie actors. And you stayed in TV, and that's what you were known for. Movie actors, they got the prestige that was due to them, and there wasn't much of this desire to cross over. But now you have a lot of TV stars making it big in the movies. Robin Williams is a prime example.
I mean, it used to be that movie stars only crossed over to television once their movie career was on the
Oh,
skids. So
exactly.
that's
And they
when,
had no movie offers.
so that's
Exactly.
basically when you'd have Burt Reynolds doing BL Striker or something like that.
Yep. Yep. Edward the Black Prince mentioned TV was the lower tier. Yeah. And there was like this pecking order. Movie was up here. Oh, you're just a TV actor. But now there is almost an indistinguishable difference between the two. It's about
Which
the writing.
I think started with a series called Damages, where Glenn Close
Yes.
switched over to do prestige television. I think that was probably the first of that kind.
Yep. And it was not unheard of back in the day for movie stars, right? When their careers started to falter, they would start doing those episodic shows like The Love Boat.
Charlton
Um,
Heston in the Colbys.
yep, and so you would have them appear on those episodic shows, and that's when the audience would say, "Oh, so they've come down to TV appearance." Oh, okay,
Such as when you get Burt
and
Reynolds guest starring in the Golden Girls.
yes, yes, but nowadays the joy of this medium of the entertainment industry is, it's almost like there's no difference between a great TV performance. Now TVs are the limited run series, mini series, this big event, and movies are just, it's a reflection of the writing, the directing, and the caliber of the acting. Um, And I think it's just it's amazing to see. But back in the day when Robin Williams jumped from his comedic Mork and Mindy, almost ended his career because it was so silly in the last season, transformed himself into a major Hollywood actor in the movies. But we do have the Death to Smoochie. We have those performances, yes. Okay, so back to the movie.
And
Yeah,
very
Finch
nice that
recorded
Finch
it.
has tape recorded their
Yep,
conversation.
yep. Brilliant move, by the way. Absolutely brilliant move. But that's what cops should do too, I guess. I guess. I mean, that's a gray area. But tape recording conversations, as long as one of the people in the conversation knows.
Well, because of
Yes.
course, because
Oh,
the
go
whole
ahead.
well, I think the whole problem with this is that basically, pretty much everything Dormer's done, he's not got anything that would be admissible evidence if you tried to prosecute Finch. What admissible evidence he would have would probably not be allowed either because it's all fruit of the poison tree.
Absolutely. What he should have done is just come clean with everything, but there is that backstory that I don't think it's been revealed yet, but there is something that's driving him to behave the way he is. He's not forthcoming. He's not an honest cop by any means. Um,
Well,
yeah.
the something that's driving him is again, it's something that wasn't in the Scandi flick.
Hmm.
As I understand it, a lot of the background story for this character was made up basically by Pacino's PA, who said, "Wouldn't the story make a lot more sense for your character if he had this motivation for wanting to find Finch as well as that motivation?" And then Nolan thought it was a good idea, so
Hmm.
incorporated it into the final draft of the script.
Yeah. And that little tidbit really gives the backstory to why his character is doing what he's doing, but it's not revealed to the audience just yet.
Mm. But it's also part of the thing that's making Finch a much more substantial role than it was
Hmm.
in the Scandi film. Which, I guess if you want to get a good actor to come in and give you a star performance, you might need to beef the part up for them.
Yeah, and probably just the style of writing this particular story, give him a little something extra. Um, and there was a comment earlier in the chat about, so the movie that this was based on only came out 5 years prior. Is that right?
It was a 1997 movie,
Yeah.
so yeah, 5 years prior. Which again is you get it with a lot of these sort of foreign language horror thrillers get remade relatively quickly in
Mhm.
America, which obviously we all joke it's because Americans won't read the subtitles.
Ah.
So you've got stuff like The Vanishing being remade, games. There was that one last year that I can't remember the name of that had James McAvoy in. That was like literally a year or two since the original version.
Oh, was that where he played the uh,
The not very
the,
nice
the
person.
psycho
Yes,
guy?
yes, the psycho guy.
The psycho guy.
If only
Um,
they could. Right, I'm going to
Speak
see.
No Evil.
Speak No Evil, yeah, which was basically that was a 2022 Danish Dutch film they
Right.
remade.
Oh yes, Mad Matt. The picture of Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire, probably one of his best, most iconic roles.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Or
that would be a great watch party. We got a
I,
lot to say
I
about
would have characterised that as one of his creepiest roles.
that. Well, yeah, I mean, there's an aspect to,
Stalking, infiltrating,
yeah,
deceiving.
yeah, where he's deceiving his ex-wife to take care of his kids. Um, yeah, but it is one of his funnest performances. So yeah, Hilary Swank's character, she's a pretty solid character, and I kind of wish they would put her more front and center as her and Dormer butt heads. That would be more intriguing if they were to butt heads more often. But as it is, she's kind of the moral center to this investigation. Um,
So with him as a because obviously he's not on Alaskan state police or whatever unpronounceable town police force this is. So presumably, is he then seconded to them, so he has some sort of authority while he's there, or
yeah, he's he was called to lend a hand in this investigation.
hmm,
So in essence, he should be playing a subordinate role, but
because he's out of
she
his jurisdiction?
exactly. So they should be leading the investigation. He should be the supportive help.
Hmm.
But she admires him, and we learn that from the beginning. She has followed his career. She studied. She did one of his cases in the academy, and so she's idolizing him. Whereas,
I take it he left out in sort of the academy stuff that he planted evidence and things like
oh,
that.
oh, shh. Yeah, and she does not know that part. Um,
It's not a spoiler to say about planting evidence because
yeah.
he's already planted. We've seen him plant a bullet.
Yes, we've seen him plant evidence. So she does not know what is going on, what happened before. This obviously we have more of the movie, things will unravel. That's, we won't give any spoilers away. Um, but as it is, she should be taking the lead, but she's not. She is letting him
Mm.
because I think maybe she just thinks that he knows everything. She's followed his career. He's up here to be admired. He knows what he's doing.
Because unlike you, we don't have all these different sorts of police forces. We just have each area has a police force.
Mm.
We don't have a separate federal,
Hmm.
like federal police, or like how lots of European countries have a civilian police and then a military police who also police civilians.
Oh, yeah. How many do we have out here? We have local, county, state. We have tribal police, which is a totally separate entity. Federal jurisdictions.
Presumably, the
Um,
tribal police are like in that Val Kilmer film, Thunderheart.
yeah, yeah. And I'm right in the middle of. I've got
Scotland Yard, Mad
two
Matt,
tribes around me.
it's basically a police station for the Metropolitan Police. It's just part of the London police force.
Mm. Yeah, so it is interesting how all of these jurisdictions, whether it be the United States or when you have international relations and you have international cooperation, all of these agencies, how they coordinate everything.
You mean it's not like something like due south, where a Mountie can just rock up to Chicago and fight crime with
Huh.
an American partner.
Like some of those buddy cop movies in the 80s where you just jump into any jurisdiction and do your thing?
Or,
No.
or Coogan's Bluff, where the cowboy goes to the city, which is that then turns into that Dennis Weaver series.
No.
Wow.
Jurisdictions are like this, constantly fighting for, who gets the collar, who gets the recognition. Then when you put the federal on top of that, the federal wants to come in and everybody wants the federal to take charge. You have
Because we all saw how the Beverly Hills PD made it very clear to Axel Foley that he had no jurisdiction there.
That's exactly right. Well, Calbot just posted a picture. There you go. Yeah, it's funny to see it
The
in the
whole point
movies.
being that
So
Axel
many.
Foley isn't the Beverly Hills cop of the title.
He's not. Okay. Boy, it's been a long time. Beverly Hills was, I think, mid 80s. Mid 80s. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
If you've not watched it yet, the one they released last year, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F,
Hmm.
is actually really rather good.
Better than what the other sequel that came out, I think, a couple years ago, Coming to America 2. I heard wasn't that bad.
I would put it on a par with Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Okay. But I don't know. I think
Maybe even better.
Coming to America was a great comedy. I don't know why they needed a sequel 20, 30 years later. But, oh well. I'm not in Hollywood.
Well, I think that was one that I think was that straight to Netflix or straight to Amazon Prime or something.
Coming to America too, I think it was straight to Amazon.
I mean, quite often you get things like that when they've released a film on their pre-streaming channel and it's got a hell of a lot of hits that then they say, oh, maybe we should go and do another one now.
Uh, yeah, the almighty dollar. Okay, so now we've got an action scene. So if she had been left in charge of the investigation, I wonder if she would have figured it out. I think the evidence might have just fallen into her favor, but Dormer has been changing the investigation.
Wow, you've also got an investigation within the investigation that they're investigating the shooting of his partner.
Yep.
That's it. Being arrested for doing a bit of B&E in the suspect's house.
More B&E. Yeah, Calbot says she wasn't ever in charge. The lead detective is the cop with the stash. Yeah, she was never
But she
she
would still have
never had any authority, but
in the hierarchy. She would have ranked above the cop from out of the state.
she should have. Yes.
Yeah, he's basically there just as an observer and to advise.
Right. He was just there to help out, give his advice, because he had been on the job a long time. But yeah, she just kind of let him. Again, she admired him, thought he knew so much better than she did. So But yeah, now we're kind of led to believe that, so they're getting this kid, arresting him.
Well,
Okay.
off to prison with his sort of emo hairstyle. Sure, he'll enjoy prison.
Boy, look at Dormer. It almost looks like Pacino just kept himself awake for days and days.
Yeah, you can't get to the problem. Day 12 of filming, Al Pacino is dead.
Yep. He can't act anymore.
We need to do all of your scenes in the first 11 days of the shootout.
Yes. Yes, Johnny Devitt driving with insomnia is just as bad as with alcohol. Yes, it is. And it doesn't take much to become um, affected.
It's a The world is a far cry from what it was. I know my mother says that when she was a child, a typical evening would have her mum and dad would drive her to the local pub, leave her in the car with a bottle of pop, while while they had a nice night drinking lots of alcohol, and then they'd drive home.
Well,
I think like liquid lunches, this is something that's in the past.
it's hard to, with my history in law enforcement, it's hard. You can't lecture decades of previous behavior. That's the way it was. The world was a very different place. Um, and it was, even my late husband, and he was quite a bit older than me. He would tell me stories about when he was a kid, and it's just sometimes okay. It's just the way things work, and it's the way you did it. But
Ooh,
now we just
shell case.
you think we know better, and yep, she found a clue. She found a big clue.
And that is not from a 38 because the 38 is a revolver and so wouldn't have
Yep.
left shell cases about.
And so she found a different caliber, and yep. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen this before, we're not gonna give any spoilers, but yep, now we're getting to the last half hour of the movie, and things are kind of elevating. I wonder how much fun Robin Williams actually had playing the bad guy here. This must have been a fantastic role for him.
Well, apparently he was completely not method in his approach. So when he wasn't acting the character, he was entertaining the rest of the cast and crew, cracking jokes and doing impressions and stuff.
Hmm. And that's just him. You can't stop that. But yeah, you had mentioned 1 Hour Photo. That came out a year before
No,
this
same
movie.
year,
Same year?
2002.
Okay. Yeah. 2000. Wow. Okay. That was a very interesting role for him to play. And when I saw it, it was mesmerizing how he just became that really creepy person.
It's
Um,
it's also a film that, although it's made very much within living memory, is incredibly dated because of what he did for a living in that
yeah.
film.
And this big super Walmart box store, he was the photo guy, the 1 hour photo guy. He was brilliant. That's all I could say. So whereas Robin Williams can do drama, comedy. Um, was Al Pacino, because I'm familiar with all of Al Pacino's dramatic work. Oh, and a side note, she's okay. This is another clue. She's going back into that case study, and she is going to find another clue. So, anyway, Al Pacino, has he done any comedic roles, like straight up comedy?
Take it you're not counting Dick Tracy.
No, because Dick Tracy was kind of a
It was inadvertent comedy.
yeah, it was like what do they call it, dramedies, and it's like a cartoonish, not supposed to be a comedy, but with comedy elements. Was he in Jack and Jill? Just like a straight comedic performance, because I can't recall ever seeing him in a straight comedic performance. And if anybody has, how good is he? And does he do a crossover role like that? Alex Peacock says Simone was basically a comedy. I am not familiar with that.
I'm not seeing any comedy titles leaping out in his filmography.
Oh, Simone was 2002. Satirical science fiction film. Interesting. Because nothing comedic is coming on the at the top of my head. But so we have Simone, Jack and Jill. You mean that silly little Adam Sandler movie?
But again, he's not really playing a straight up comedy role. That's kind of a cameo as him.
Ah, okay. So maybe he has taken a. Oh, okay. Calbot says he was in Gigli. Jiggly.
I would say that's a bad movie rather than a comedy. But
Okay. Okay, so she's putting the pieces together. And he's not going to be able to outrun his demons. That's kind of what he's doing. He's trying to outrun his demons. Ah. I remember times in my life when I was that tired. Yeah. One time I was driving, I think, when I shouldn't be driving, and I was so tired, having not slept for I think a day and a half, and waking up just in time before I hit a mountain. I mean, scary, scary. Would not recommend it. Okay, so Alex Peacock says, based on IMDb, no straight comedies for Pacino. Yeah, he just seems like a really intense guy, and those seems to be the roles that he has chosen for himself. Scent of a Woman was, I think, a little bit. I mean, it was drama, but he had some lighthearted moments in that. But yeah, no comedies.
from the far off days when Chris O'Donnell was considered a major movie star.
Yeah, he's not so much anymore. Is he?
I think he might be is he on a CSI or an NSIS or something like that.
Mm. Oh boy, his eyes must be really hurting now. More attorney in a little supporting role. Yeah, those are not blackout curtains. You would think everyone would have blackout curtains that time of year. Yes, O'Donnell was on one of those NCIS spin-offs for years, Alex Peacock says.
Yeah, I think probably Batman and Robin killed him off
Mm,
as a movie star
yeah, Batman and Robin was it.
with the bat nipples and the bat bulge.
Ugh. And he was Robin to who's Batman? Was it George
Val
Clooney?
Kilmer and
Val
George
Kilmer.
Clooney. He was Val
Both of
Kilmer in Batman Forever, and then
okay.
George Clooney in Batman and Robin. And they are two bad movies.
You know, sometimes I like to say life is too short for bad movies, but bad movies are what makes life fun. To be able to see the bad movies and comment what a bad movie it was. Oh my God, have you seen a bad movie? Let's talk about this bad movie. Everyone should see it.
Oh, it's like when Seinfeld went to see Plan 9 from Outer Space and no couldn't get the others into the cinema with him. He said, well, what's the point of going to see a bad movie on my own? Who's going to hear me
Exactly.
making sarcastic comments?
Exactly. And now we are a community of movie lovers. We should see plenty of bad movies.
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Let's do it. Let's put a bad movie on and we'll all watch it. All the movies in these watch parties, they're not blockbusters. I don't want them to be all the blockbusters that we know and love. We've got
So,
to sprinkle in some of those bad movies.
like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Not that bad. Let's do a good bad movie.
Oh, Eric says we aren't doing Superman 4 again. We've never done Superman 4.
But we've done Superman 3.
Which does have the most terrifying moment in the whole Superman franchise in it, where Ross Webster's sister is cyborged.
Oh, jeez. Troll 2, that would be fun. Yeah, we'll do a we've got well, no, I'm not going to give spoilers away. No. Um, we have things are being planned and I'm able to kind of plan some movies in the future. Some fun things. But okay, so here's not a spoiler, but where we had Summer of Popcorn, and we would have Andrew would give us the list ahead of time, like for the month and a half to 2 months, we would have the movies in advance. I'm thinking of doing that too, and that would be for what I'm working on. We'll give kind of the movies in advance and about why I'm trying to do something a little different and having some fun with.
See, old Johnny Devitt mentions Ed Wood and Shadow of the Vampire, and I think I might have said before, they're both films that I love doing a double bill with, so I'll watch Ed Wood and Plan 9 from Outer Space back to back. That's a great evening.
I think
So
you
is,
had mentioned that before. Ed Wood
so
is a
is, so is Nosferatu 1922 and Shadow of the Vampire.
There you go. That's a good double bill.
But Shadow of the Vampire is seemingly very hard to find a copy of now.
I think I had that on my list to look for. Yeah, it might be a well, yeah, I would like to get a movie available on multiple platforms.
Well, it's available to buy on
Yeah.
Amazon, but that looks like it's it.
And sometimes if it's only available on Amazon, then its licensed rights are only in the UK or in America.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we try to get something that's available worldwide.
or people could use a VPN.
Yeah, There's nothing illegal or wrong about using a VPN. So I would recommend it if we do some of these that are hard to find in certain areas. Beautiful scenery. I will say Alaska is gorgeous,
It's not Alaska, it's Canada.
but it's Alaska. It's supposed to be Alaska.
Doesn't look cold and desolate enough.
Right. And if it, you know what, if it was truly Alaska, we would see a lot of mooses,
I've seen
and
northern exposure. There were definitely a lot of mooses in northern
mooses,
exposure.
mises,
Moose.
moose. Oh, and speaking of mooses, Gene Hackman was also in that comedy Welcome to Mooseport with
That was his last film,
his last
and
film in 2004, right?
which which really would have been nice if he could have gone out on something that wasn't an appalling Adam Sandler movie. But there
Yeah.
you are.
Well, he's entered one of the final stages of insomnia where you're hallucinating and can't drive. Shouldn't be driving.
That's just what you want from someone who's packing heat.
You know, she's awfully clever. You know, she's putting things together. I think she is suspecting him. Alex Peacock says, "Yeah, that wasn't Sandler. It was Ray Romano. Was it? It was Ray Romano that he was starred with."
So it was. I don't know who Ray Romano is. I don't think I've ever
Hmm.
seen a film with him in.
He's more of a TV actor. He was in Everybody Loves Raymond. Um,
Yeah,
he's yeah,
that was never a big sitcom over here.
okay. Not much of a no. He's been in a couple films.
If you want to
But
take
more
the
TV.
sitcom, American sitcoms we've always had on permanent rotation
Mm.
over here. Cheers, The Golden Girls, Frasier, maybe Roseanne.
Oh, those are classics.
I mean, we still Channel 4 shows Frasier every day. And
Yeah.
when they get to the end of season 11, they start again with season 1.
And I bet the reason why those shows have such a longevity out there is because they've run for so many seasons. Cheers was on for 11, Frasier was on for 11, Roseanne was on for, ooh, I want to say 8.
I think The Golden Girls was 6.
Golden Girls, yeah, 6.
But that basically means that something like The Golden Girls, a TV station can show an episode every day for
Mm,
3 years,
yeah,
but before they run out of fresh material.
yeah. So here we get a pretty intense fight scene. It's not really good versus evil. It's the battle of who's the most what? You got the you want to live the longest, you got to kill your enemy kind of thing. But she's figured it out. I think she figured it out by now. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, in terms of other US series, obviously, the BBC basically ran the original Star Trek about 11 times all the way through from the 60s to the 2000s.
Well, there's a lot of episodes.
ITV still as the A Team on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, that's a classic 80s. After a while, though, you see the same episode over and over again. You just need a break.
Or particularly with something like the A Team, which is so formulaic.
Yeah. Some of the episodes are just dated. I mean, the show is
Look,
classic
there's
80s.
nothing wrong with Boy George playing Cowboy George.
Oh, jeez. I have got to revisit the A Team. It's been a while.
I love it when a plan comes together.
I just love the characters. So this is pretty intense. We've got like a three-way battle of fight to the death kind of thing. So she knows that her hero that she idolized is a broken, fallen man.
I think a shotgun would have made a bit more of a mess of Finch at that range.
Yep, it should have. Well, they got each other, didn't they? Oh, Alex Peacock mentioned the original MacGyver. Parts really haven't aged well, but I still love it. That's a classic show.
Obviously, Ms. Swift mentioning Columbo, that
Columbo.
obviously that is another series that's still in regular reruns over here. Was on the BBC again up until the 2000s.
Oh, there he goes. Um, Mad Matt mentions never investigate your heroes. Never, and you know what the old saying is?
Never meet them.
Never meet your idols.
Well, that's the thing that people say that, like John Carpenter said that when he met Nigel Neal, who was
Mm,
a hero of his, and found him really grumpy and not very nice to work with.
yeah, yeah. There's something to be said for that. Or just when you meet your idols, just have normal expectations. They're just people.
It's on,
Okay.
it's on one of William Shatner's albums. There's a song where he says, he might have been Captain Kirk in the movies and saved the world on TV, but that's not who he is.
That's not. Yeah.
He's just Bill.
Yep. So this, we're approaching the end, and
Now,
she would have almost followed down that same path that he took.
except this is a big change from the Scandi flick, because in the Scandi flick, she destroys the evidence, he isn't killed,
Oh,
and he drives off into the sunset, all morally compromised, leaving her behind, all morally compromised.
and
Whereas,
well,
whereas here, we've given him a nice redemptive arc.
yes, and he has redeemed. I guess he has redeemed himself,
And now he can sleep.
and he, in essence, has saved her from going down that dark path. And that was just a really sweet line. Let me sleep in more ways than one. And yeah, so for him, that meant let the investigation play out. It's going to come back on me. It's okay. It's done. Which is what he should have done a long time ago. But we do have a redemptive arc for our characters. So the only one that doesn't get redeemed is Finch, and he's at the bottom of the ocean now, or lake. There we go.
I generally prefer my serial killers not to be redeemed at the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been like a something off character if Robin Williams suddenly was to be redeemed. No.
So
So, all right.
his victim wasn't very nice all along.
Yeah. I mean, he did murder a girl after all. So, all right. There we go. So, yes, Eric says this movie has me totally engrossed. Great movie. Mad Matt says he'll get recycled. You mean at the bottom of the river or lake? It was a lake, right? Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. That was Insomnia. What did you think? All was this your first time seeing it? And if so, do you like it? Is this a revisit? Did it stand the test of time? Does it get better the second
It's
time you see it?
it's the Christopher Nolan film that gets talked about least.
Right.
It's the one that's not in the big Christopher Nolan box set they have on sale, and I think it's just because it is the one that is the least Christopher Nolan. A bit like with Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown is the least Quentin Tarantino film. So it possibly attracts less attention from his sort of the fanboys of the other stuff he's done.
That's true.
And looking
For,
at it, it could easily have been directed by someone like David Fincher because it's not got that Nolan distinctiveness to it.
right. Alex Peacock says it gets ignored for Memento. Yeah, and then Christopher Nolan did. For me, it was the Batman trilogy. It just put Christopher Nolan on the map. And this, you're right, this is a departure, but this was way before those Batman movies.
I mean,
So,
I think it's a worthwhile retelling of the original film because it changes just enough so that it's saying something different.
yeah. Calbot made that comment about fun watch party, second viewing of this movie today, enjoyable film. He's going to seek out the original and 1 hour photo. Yep, good choices. Yeah, and I'm going to seek out, based on your comments, I'm going to seek out the original, and I've never seen the original. I'm going to check that out and see how it compares to this one. So, Mad Matt says, enjoyed the film, pulled me into the story. Very good. Miss Swift, second, maybe third time seeing it, probably last seen about 20 years ago. Yep. Let's see, who did I miss? Old Johnny Devick says it had a great setting and felt a bit more interesting than most thrillers of this era. Yes. Yeah, Miss Swift commented, well, the thing was I was watching Christopher Nolan films without realizing they were Christopher Nolan films. Yep. Yep. All right. Okay, so without further ado, so the plans for next week, I originally had a movie planned for next week, but we're gonna preempt it and push it off to another time. So James, do you want to announce next week's movie?
Well, next week's movie is something we've picked in memoriam of Gene Hackman, and we're going back to 1989 from director Andrew Davis. We have Gene Hackman, Tommy Lee Jones, and I think Pam Grier in the pitch.
So yeah, this I think that it's appropriate to honor Gene Hackman with all of his roles. He has so many good ones, and this one should be. We've already checked. It should be available on all the platforms. If you haven't heard of it, if you haven't seen it before, It should be available in your area. Um,
It's certainly free on Amazon Prime in the UK, and I think Sharon said it's on Tubi in the
oh,
US.
Miss Swift said in the what you glitched as you said the title. Oh, it's the package from
The
1989.
Package.
Yep. One of his lesser known. I had never heard of it, so this will be. I'll do a pre-watch and then we'll watch it again.
No, it's good, as I said. It's one of the films Andrew Davis did before The Fugitive that helped get him the gig of The Fugitive.
Yes, Eric posted the package from 1989. That picture over in Discord. Um, I mean, with his over 40 years in the business, um, yeah, Gene Hackman's going to be missed. So, alrighty, well, there you are. I am so glad you all have joined us today. Um, we are going to go through daylight savings, but the time that I post for the watch party will be the same. So just pay attention to the posting. Everything will be fine. And we will see you all next week for this wonderful homage to Gene Hackman. So thank you, James, for joining me. And James will be here next week for this watch party.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and be safe, be good to yourself, and send goodness out in the world where you can.
Have
All
a
right.
good week, everybody.
Thank you. Bye all.